call a witness out of order.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Detective Fillmore.
If you could please face me and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state the testimony you may give in the cause now pending before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Please have a seat in the witness stand. And for the record, say and spell your first and last name, please.
It's James Fillmore. James is common spelling. Fillmore, Fillmore.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Fillmore, what was your occupation on January the 26th, 2017?
I was a detective.
For
I was working with the
what agency? I'm sorry.
LAPD
Thank you. Go on.
in a Valley Bureau Homicide unit.
All right. And at that time, how long had you been a police officer?
It's 2017. That would have been like 16 years, 16, 17 years, something like that.
And how long did you remain a police officer?
20.
Till 2020?
No, 22.
And
2023.
You retired at that time?
I was terminated.
Going back to the date of January 26, 2017, what was your assignment on that day?
I was in the Valley Bureau Homicide unit.
Right. And were you familiar with the investigation into the death of Fabio Sementilli?
Yes.
Who was in charge of the investigation for robbery homicide at that time, if you remember?
When I was involved in the case, robbery homicide wasn't involved. I was with the initial team. The lead investigator at that time was Gene Parshall, who's no longer with us. Rest in peace.
Yes. And that was out of the San Fernando Valley, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And what role, if any, did you play in that investigation?
I was involved with I was in the squad that was called to the scene. It was our call, and so I was at the scene.
And so you were at the scene of the murder
Yes, sir.
on the day it occurred, or some other time?
I don't remember when it actually occurred. It was determined to be occurred, but I was the first group of detectives at the scene.
And did you remain assigned to that case for some period of time?
Yes, until it was passed to robbery homicide.
Okay. And how long was that?
I couldn't give you an exact time.
A few.
It wasn't long.
Okay. You're aware that the decedent, Mr. Sementilli, had an autopsy, of course, correct?
Yes.
Did you play any role in that autopsy?
I went to the autopsy.
Okay. And if the date I have of the autopsy appears to be January 26, 2017, does that sound right?
I can't remember the exact date.
Okay.
But,
For what reason did you attend the autopsy?
I was assigned to go there with my partner at that time. It was Detective, now retired, Robert Plerty. And we were there to help out the lead investigator, to give him some idea of the cause of death, things of that nature. During the preliminary phase of the investigation, to help out the lead investigator on the case.
Right. Is that because this was a criminal investigation as opposed to just a natural death?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that was Detective Parshall?
It was Plerty.
No, I mean Parshall was your supervisor at that time?
Your Honor, that misstates the evidence.
All right. What's your question? I'm sorry, sir.
I thought you said you were working under Detective Parshall at that time?
Detective Parshall was the lead investigator. I went to the autopsy with Detective Plerty.
Sure. And were you assigned to go there by Detective Parshall or someone else?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever attended an autopsy before for that same reason or purpose?
Yes, I had.
And about how many autopsies had you attended before that day?
Maybe 24.
Did you have any background or training in medicine or autopsies, coroner office, anything of that nature that prepared you to attend those autopsies and this one?
I'd never received any medical training. I You know, I'd been around a lot of murder cases and things of that nature to be able to identify, you know, injuries or wounds, things of that nature.
I assume you went through the normal training of the police academy before you became a peace officer, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I don't know if I asked you this, how many years were you a peace officer as of January 2017?
That would have been 16 or 17 years.
Okay. So you go to the autopsy, and your role there is what again?
To get any preliminary information from the coroner investigator or the doctor about things such as cause of death, how many wounds, maybe what kind of wounds, anything to help out the lead investigator during the preliminary phase of the investigation.
To help solve the question of who committed the crime.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you complete that, you attended the entire autopsy, is that right?
Not the entire, just the initial phase of it.
Well, you remember the doctor's name?
I don't remember, no.
Does Dr. Ukpo, UKPO, ring a bell?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
I take it you attended autopsies conducted by different coroners, is that correct, or working for the coroner's office at that time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Okay. So do you remember at all the Sementilli case?
I remember the case, yes. I don't remember specifically that autopsy, but I remember the basics of the case, yes.
Okay. So you and Detective Plurdy were present during the autopsy, obtaining information that would be helpful to the investigation, correct?
Trying to do that, yes.
And how do you do that?
We'll ask the doctor doing the autopsy what he sees, you know, things of that nature. You know, sometimes it helps, you know, to know what kind of, in his opinion, what weapon was used, things of that nature. So just looking for any kind of any information to relay back to the lead investigator on the case.
And I assume in this case, as in others, the medical examiner performing the autopsy was cooperative with you?
Yes.
And how do you record what he tells you that you believe is of any significance?
The way I would do it is I would write handwritten notes, and then I'd take it back to those handwritten notes back to a station and type them out so they're more readable, and then give them to the lead investigator.
Your is this been marked? If not, could I have marked as next in order an autopsy exam document?
One moment. Question you have is, has it been marked? And that's what I'm concerned about. All right. Proceed, please.
I'm going to show the witness what's been marked as Exhibit 621.
I'm going to object to the foundation at this point.
You can show it to the witness. It's overruled.
Detective Fillmore, would you take a look at this item that's been marked as Exhibit 621? Read it over to yourself and let me know when you're finished.
Okay.
Is that your name and the name of Detective Plurdy, P-L-O-U-R-D-E, at the top?
That is my name. I don't.
Well, let me look.
Yeah, that's my name, yeah.
And did you place your name there?
I don't know. I don't believe I wrote that document. It's not the how I wrote it, and I always sign my documents, so I think that was Detective Clarity that did that.
Okay. And did you participate with him in preparing that document?
Yes, sir.
And would this document record, to the best of your ability, the information that you were provided by the medical examiner?
Yes.
And is it prepared in the normal course of your duties as a police officer?
Yes.
And was it accurate at the time, as far as you know, to the best of your knowledge, at the time it was prepared?
Yes.
Can you tell us, looking at the report, what the doctor indicated to you was the number of stab wounds?
Can I read it?
If it refreshes your memory.
I mean, seven total stab wounds.
Again,
Or
I'm
like-
going to object to the witness reading from the document.
Sustained?
Move to strike.
Stricken.
Thank you.
But this does record what you and your partner prepared at the time that the autopsy occurred or shortly thereafter. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I'll just add, sometimes, this is preliminary, so sometimes we would leave before the autopsy is completed, and sometimes they'd find more after we left, but that documents, while we were there, the best that we saw or got from the doctor.
And obtained from the doctor.
Correct.
Did you have any more contact with the doctor after you prepared the report?
I did not.
What did you do with the report after it was prepared?
Again, I don't believe I authored that document there, but I can tell you what I would, if it was my document, would do.
Well, do you know what Detective
That would be irrelevant.
He didn't say anything yet.
do you know what Detective Flirty did with the report?
I don't personally know. As an investigator, if I was the lead, it'd go in the murder book.
Well, your role and his role was to provide this information to investigator or Detective Parshall, correct? Is that correct?
It would have gone to Detective Parshall, and what he did with it, I don't know, but
And gone to him in the normal course of business?
yes.
And what you do with all the autopsy reports that you participate in?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have nothing further.
Me across.
I would ask that the document be admitted into evidence.
That'll be denied. Me across.
Just briefly, did you review any reports, Detective, prior to coming to court today?
No.
Did you have any conversations with defense counsel before coming to court today or testifying?
Briefly.
Can you tell us about that conversation, please?
He just told me what I was here for, basically.
Being what? To talk about?
This autopsy that I attended.
Okay. Do you have any independent recollection of attending the autopsy?
Very vague.
And you said you might have handled or been present for approximately 24 autopsies?
Yes.
And you said you don't have any medical training.
I do not.
And you didn't, when you were asked about attending the police academy, there's no medical training portion at the police academy, is there?
I think it was a CPR class.
Okay. But nothing in terms of recognizing wounds or patterns or tool marks caused by weapons or things of that nature? That would be within the province of the experts at the crime lab or the coroner's department, correct?
I mean, we get a little bit of that training in the field, but not very much in the academy.
Not on the level of the chief medical examiner of LA County?
No.
Okay. And you said you think you attended a portion of the autopsy. What portion, if you have any recollection?
Well, it would have been, it's the initial phase, so the initial phase that they're looking at wounds and things like that. I would never stay for the entire thing where the entire body is looked at.
Okay. So maybe prior to the autopsy when photographs are taken, or
Just prior to the point where the doctor is
gonna...
getting into the body to look
Okay.
at wounds and things of that nature.
Okay, so you wouldn't have been present when he autopsied any of the wounds to look underneath the skin to see any of the wound paths or markings, tool marks, patterns? You wouldn't have been there for any of that?
Maybe for a little bit, but not for the entire thing, no.
Okay. And would you agree that whatever the chief medical examiner testified to and included in his autopsy report would be more accurate than anything that you might have interpreted, thought, wrote down in notes, then transferred from notes into some typewritten report?
Objection, speculation. Conclusion, no further.
It's overruled.
True?
100%. The doctor's report is way more reliable than my notes or Plerdy's notes.
Okay, because you're detectives. Your job is to investigate a crime, in this case a homicide, and his job is to deal with cause of death and all of that, all of the features relevant to that determination.
Yes, correct. We're just trying to give him some preliminary leads, something that he can go on.
In other words, for you to be able to come back and say to Detective Parshall, cause of death is multiple stab wounds.
That's correct, as opposed to a gunshot wound or something like that.
Got you. Thank you. I have nothing further. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. You don't perform the autopsy, do you?
No.
I'm going to object. It's argumentative.
It's overruled.
The information you got for your report, or the one prepared by Detective Plerdy, all came from information provided by the doctor, correct?
Yes, I mean, we're there, we can see with our own eyes, but yes, it's majority from the doctor.
And what you wrote in here, like I asked you about 7 stab wounds, that came from the doctor, is that correct?
States the evidence.
Sustained. Not write anything in there.
This document was prepared by Detective Plerdy in the normal course of business, correct?
I believe it was Plerdy, like I said, because I would always sign my documents afterwards that I'd give to the lead investigator. That one's not signed. I believe that was done by Plerdy. But I was there with him.
Did you review it?
I just reviewed it right here, yes.
No, did you review it before it was turned over to Detective Parshall?
Yes, sir.
And was it accurate as far as to the best of your ability at that time?
Yes, sir.
If it was not, you would have changed it or in any way gone back and got additional information from the coroner, is that correct?
Or tell Detective Plerdy that that didn't look right, he needed to change it.
So if this was turned over to Detective Parshall, then it was accurate to the best of your ability, correct?
Yes.
And again, prepared in the normal course of business.
Yes, sir.
Was one of the things that Detective Parshall interested in is where the stab wounds occurred?
I'm going to object. Calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Did this report record where the stab wounds occurred?
Objection irrelevant.
Sustained.
Did this report record what the coroner told you in the presence of Detective Plerdy where the stab wounds occurred?
I'm going to object. Again, irrelevant.
I'll allow this.
Again, we'd get some information from the doctor, and we could also see with our own eyes.
I want you to take a look at this sentence here, which is the fourth from the bottom, beginning with doctor. Do you see that?
I see that line, yes.
Is that what the doctor told you?
I can't remember what the doctor told us, but if it's documented on there, then yes, that would have been from the doctor.
Does it indicate this is what the doctor stated?
Object
Is that overruled?
to count to reading from the report.
He hasn't done that yet.
Does this indicate what the doctor stated?
That's what it says, yes, sir.
And what the doctor stated was recorded by you and or Detective Plerdy, again, during the normal course of business as your job on the date of this autopsy, correct?
Again, I'm going to object, he just states the evidence. He said he didn't write this report.
It's over.
That's what you were there for?
Yes.
To record what the doctor told you to assist in the investigation, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did he tell you the wounds were consistent with one-sided edged weapon without
Now
a
reading
serrated
from the report.
edge?
Sustained.
We've had this conversation several.
Excuse me. Sustained.
Did he tell you what the wounds were consistent with in terms of the type of weapon used?
I'm just going to read through the...
Just to yourself now, don't answer what it says. Is that what was recorded here as your job and that of Detective Flirty?
No, that's two different questions, counsel.
Is that what is recorded here?
What the doctor said?
Yes.
Yes.
And one of the things that you and Detective Flirty were interested in this case was the type of weapon that was used that you could report back to Detective Parshall, correct?
Yes.
And did you accurately, or Detective Flirty, record what the doctor told you about that weapon?
To the best of our knowledge, yes.
And did he tell you that it was a one-sided edged weapon without a serrated edge?
Sustained.
Did you accurately record what he told you about the type of weapon? Does this report accurately, to your knowledge, record that information?
Sustained.
Let me ask you this. Were you involved at all in the Sementilli investigation following the preparation of this report and following, well, I'll start with following the autopsy?
I was involved in the investigation up until it was passed on to Robbery Homicide Division.
And you were involved when this report was provided to Detective Parshall, correct?
Yes.
And one of the things Detective Parshall was interested in is whether or not, is what type of weapon was used to kill the victim in this case, correct?
The speculation.
Sustained, and there's, let me see a sidebar. I'm sorry?
Just a few more questions, okay? Did Detective Parshall ever talk to you about this report?
No. Not that I remember, no.
And you said the new investigator who took over after Detective Parshall's untimely death was who?
It was passed, the case was passed to Robbery Homicide Division. I don't remember who the lead was with
Would Gable or Tellis, those names ring a bell?
yes, they do.
You remained working on the case under them as the replacements for Detective Parshall?
No, once it was given to RHD, they took it. That was their case at that point.
Did you
And we
have
would
any,
help them with anything that they needed, you know.
did you have any other role in participating in the investigation, particularly involving the type of weapon that may or may not have been used to kill the victim?
The only thing other additional that I think I did is wrote a search warrant.
Okay. And do you recall if the information that you obtained, or Detective Flirty and your company obtained from the doctor at the autopsy, was included in the search warrant?
Say that again, sir.
Do you recall whether the information contained in this report that I showed you was contained in the affidavit for the search warrant?
That autopsy report had nothing to do with the search warrant.
I specifically just meant the item that you identified as being written by Detective Flirty after the autopsy. Did that have was that included, that information, in the affidavit or the search warrant?
I guess I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
The information you have on this report, you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Subsequent to that, you said you participated in the writing of a search warrant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was one of the things that the search warrant was seeking the weapon that was possibly used in the commission of the crime?
Yes.
And was the information contained in this document contained in the search warrant to the best of your recollection?
The search warrant was written before this happened.
Okay. You recall what the search warrant was written for? That is, the search of what or whom?
Your Honor, I would object, it's irrelevant.
Sustain.
Right, I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further by the people?
What counsel showed you, that's not a LAPD report, correct?
No, correct.
An LAPD report is written on LAPD letterhead, it has a DR number, and there are various details that are required to be included in an LAPD report, correct?
Correct. These are notes. These are notes that are typed from handwritten notes.
Thank you. I don't know.
Anything further?
Yes, what do you call this document then?
Autopsy notes. That's what I call my note, mine.
And you followed the same procedure you did in all the other, correct?
I'm going to object. Dave?
It's assumes the fact not evidence. Again, this detective stated that he did not offer this, so he didn't follow any procedure.
Thank you, I have nothing further.
People?
No, but thank you.
Thank you, Detective Fillmore.
Thank you.
You can have Detective Roberts retake the stand.